Joining us now for more on this is Judge Stephen Haberfeld, former Assistant Watergate Special Prosecutor. Judge Haberfeld, thank you so much, first of all, for taking the time today.
Thank you.
So this criminal case against Trump was expected for a while. He is facing 13 new charges, and among them are some racketeering charges as well. Which among them for you in particular stands out?
Well, the first thing I'd like to note is that there is a substantial overlap with Special Counsel Jack Smith's D.C. indictment of former President Trump. But here we have, as I think you just noted, the RICO statute, which in Georgia is a very broad and sweeping statute where, in this particular case, former President Trump has been indicted not only alone with 6 unindicted co-conspirators, as in D.C., but here with 18 other co-conspirators who've been named and 30 who have not been. And what I think makes this further distinctive is that there is a focus here on the scheme to breach and to take unfair advantage of the voting machines in Coffee County, Georgia, and that it is proof, according to the indictment, that it goes all the way into the White House in the Oval Office on December 18 of 2020, where this was actually discussed. So I think that this is very, very distinctive about the Georgia prosecution. And in addition to that, because it is a RICO statute, you don't have to show a meeting of the minds or an agreement to have the kind of conspiracy which is covered by both the federal and here the broader Georgia RICO statute. So I think that is also very important. And I think covered by your question also is the fact that this is a non-pardonable set of offenses, because in the DC and other federal, like in South Florida, it is possible for Trump, if he is elected again or somebody is an ally, to pardon him for those, but cannot if he is convicted in Georgia. And I think also I would say very distinctively, and I think importantly, the trial of this will be televised, whereas in federal trials generally, and probably in the 2 trials that we're just talking about, that's not going to happen.
Judge Haberfeld, what do you expect we might hear from the prosecutors? How strong could their case be here? And what do you think we could hear from the defense?
I think what we're hearing from the prosecution is in this very, very highly readable, and I would recommend to all of your viewers that they read this indictment, which will tell both a very, very important narrative and detail in an unbelievable way, almost, with almost hundreds of specific instances of what actually they intend to prove. I think the rest, we're going to be hearing mainly from former President Trump publicly, a lot of which will not be admissible on his behalf at trial, but that he should be really very careful because may come in as admissions, and in the court papers, which are yet to be coming in the various motions once this gets started. But for right now, this is a very, very powerful indictment, which I think presents a very compelling case.
And just finally here, Judge, what kind of repercussions could there be for Donald Trump here? If he is found guilty, what sort of sentencing could he face?
That is a very difficult question, because as a former president, he has, for the rest of his life, a Secret Service detail attached to him. So it'll be very, very complex in the event that he is in any way sentenced to prison, if at all. So that I think that his place in history will definitely be greatly affected by any kind of major conviction in either the federal or this Georgia prosecution. But as I say, his life will be greatly affected if he is convicted in Georgia because he cannot be pardoned, and at least by a president. And in Georgia, you actually have to serve 5 years of time, which is the minimum under the RICO statute. So I think that at this president's age, if he is convicted, one of the biggest problems that he may face is something that I think he has actually been running from for a long time now. And now there's accountability, interestingly, in the state of Georgia, which is possible imprisonment here.
Okay, Judge Stephen Haberfeld, former Assistant Watergate Special Prosecutor, joining us on this today. Thank you as always.